Let's go ahead and, are you guys comfortable sharing one of your letters that you wrote? Because one of the big issues that people face going through a faith crisis is, how do I communicate this? Okay, the spouses, if they're spouses, they're on board. The kids are now on board. The family's all kind of cohesive. But now, how do I, with parents, with grandparents, with aunts and uncles, with siblings, with cousins, maybe there's coworkers, maybe there are ward members. How in the world do I come out? Because living authentic is healthy in many ways. And more importantly, it's really hard to hide in Mormonism. Everybody wants to know your calling. Everybody wants to talk to you about, have you been to the temple lately? Do you have a current temple recommend? They're looking for your garment line to see if you're wearing your garments, and why aren't you wearing your garments? And how come I haven't seen you at church? It's really hard to hide. Mormons notice when you're not going. They know when you're not serving, and they're going to be poking and prodding. And so even if you wanted to just be discreet and private, it's really hard to do that for a prolonged period of time. And so people feel the pressure at some point of coming out. And the big mistake that people make, if you don't know this, is, Jeremy Runnels' CES letter is one of 50,000 letters that have been written over the course of Mormonism, where somebody who had their faith crisis felt like they needed to write it all out. And of course, we love Jeremy, we love CES letter, but I've been sent thousands and thousands and thousands of these coming out emails where it's like, let me tell you this really bad news. We're leaving the church, and it's a cult, and we're getting out, and here's 50 things that are evil about the church, and I got to list them all, and all of Joseph's wives and their ages, and what other men they were married to, and hieroglyphics and petroglyphics and schematics and Masonic symbols and handshakes and penalties, and they're just, it's this huge dump, and feminism and sexism and racism and I joke with people that I coach and work with and that come to our workshops and retreats. Most of these letters never get read. Okay, so for all that time you spend writing it all out, most people get 3 words in, and what? They go, oh, I'm feeling uncomfortable. Oh, I'm having a dark feeling about this. Delete, put it down, burn it, throw it away, don't read it, right? So you do all this work that never gets read. But also, if it does get read, it's not like you persuade them. We talked about the backfire effect. We know from the backfire effect, which is a scientifically demonstrated principle, when someone is presented with information that contradicts their closely held beliefs that are tied to their emotions and their identity, the information that is factual that is presented to them actually strengthens their belief. And so if you were under some illusion that you could just drop a bunch of these issues all at once in this big letter, and then that was going to shake them and cause them to doubt and question and to join you in whatever position you are relative to the church, you are sadly mistaken, because what you're actually going to do is strengthen their faith and commitment, just like Leah was strengthening Cody's commitment to the church. And they're going to cling tighter to their beliefs. They're going to hold more fast to their strong religious beliefs. They'll become more dogmatic. They'll go to the temple twice a week instead of once. They'll take an extra calling. They'll pay double the tithing, whatever they have to do to double and triple down. Your assaults through your coming out letter are actually going to backfire and cause them to fear you, to avoid you, and to cling even tighter to their beliefs, which means ostracize you even more. So don't write those letters, okay? So what types of letters do you write when you want to communicate this stuff? And that's where you guys come in. Show us the way, Cody and Leah.
Oh, wow. Well, so things evolved over time, over the next few months into the summer. And we were all on the same page and had decided to part ways with the church, at least as in terms of full-time active worship in the church and so forth. We live in an area, we don't have any family in this area, and for as long as we've been in Ohio for so many years, the church has been our family. It's been our community, and So, when we made the decision to leave, we realized there were a lot of friends that were going to be hurt by our decision, and that we would feel a lot of sadness over as well, that they would feel hurt. And so we wanted to write a message to some of our friends in the church, in our ward here and in other wards that we lived in, just to let them know and to be honest about what was going on. And this was the letter we wrote. It said this: "First, we apologize for an impersonal email. We hope that this doesn't diminish the personal nature of what we share or the importance of our friendship. As you've probably guessed by now, our belief in the church and its fundamental doctrines has changed. We know this saddens you. It grieves us also. At times you may have felt uncomfortable with this proverbial elephant in the room when we have been together. We are sorry for that. Our reluctance to share has purely been a manifestation of our struggle to accept our new reality, but not a desire to keep you at a distance. The reality is that this has been hard, at times really hard, but we are doing well. We are happy, truthfully. Of course, we have good and bad days, but we are getting to a point where we feel at peace. We value you and our friendship. Our hope is that a difference in beliefs will not come between us. We honor you and your desire to live your life and raise your family in the church. We know that you can raise a happy family in the church. We respect everyone's journey. We are thankful for what the church has done for us. The church will always be an important part of our heritage and a part of our story. We hope to keep all the goodness it has given us. There are various reasons why people step away from the church, but we want you to know that we are not doing this because we desire to live a life contrary to what the church or Christ have taught us. We sincerely love the church, and in many ways we still do. What we love the most is the goodness of the people. We admire you for your goodness and faith. We hope that you always feel safe when we are together, that we will at all times respect your beliefs and love you all the same. If you ever have questions for us, we hope you feel comfortable asking whatever it is, but out of respect for you, we are not going to bring up the details of our faith journey with you. We don't want the church to be a taboo topic. We're happy to talk about the ward, about service and activities within the church, as we know they are important to you. We are teaching our children to always respect and honor the beliefs of their friends in the church as well. So we hope that you feel our whole family is safe. We are confident that our friendship transcends religion and ideology. Thank you for continuing to be respectful of us. We have felt your respect and love. It means so much to us. With love, Leah and Cody." So,
how was that? Who'd you send that to, and how was it received?
We sent it to probably a couple dozen families in our current ward, and a handful of families in our old ward, and other families that are close to us that have moved away. And it was universally well received. I mean, didn't receive a single suboptimal response. They were all very loving, very kind. Everybody expressed love. Everybody said, hey, religion's not going to come between us in terms of our friendship. We'll always be friends. We love you. It was really well received.
And everybody seems to lose friends.
Yeah.
And so it wouldn't be fair to say that you've kept all your close friends, right?
No. That's not true. I mean, and even the people who, we just don't see each other like we used to. So many of those friendships were centered around the church activities, church service. And so, we didn't have those common or shared experiences anymore. So we've lost touch with many of those people. And it's not because we don't want that. And it's not because, I don't believe that they necessarily want that either. Maybe some do, but I just think that, with the people who we had more of a relationship outside of church, most of them we still have a relationship with and we'll see and be with outside of church. But for the vast majority of those friendships or acquaintanceships that where the church was the only common ground we held, then those have been, less frequent, the interactions we have with each other.
Has that been hard to see some friendships kind of dissolve?
Yeah, I wrote a similar letter as well to people in my business because I have a team and who I love a lot, and it was really hard for me because a very high percentage of my team is LDS, and I knew that I would, by being open and honest with them, that I would be risking those relationships, and I think that's fair to say that that's happened in certain instances, not in all. But I wrote a letter similar and just let them know how much I loved them and how much I hope that our friendship and love for one another could transcend this shift. It's a really unfortunate situation, right? Because, I have had friends who have said things to me that, I really, in a way, I don't even blame them for. Like, for example, Leah, when you left, seeing your face made me just sick to my stomach. Just seeing you. Because of the threat that I pose. Not that I had said anything, tried to pull anyone away. And, it's a hard space, and I reassured this friend and those friends who feel like, if you ever say anything, I can't be your friend anymore. Like, even if it's just about your new reality, because it's so threatening to me, I just really try and say, I am so sorry because we are both a victim in this situation. Like, you're a victim that you cannot be open to my, what's exciting to me and the things that I'm learning, because you're scared, and this puts a wedge between our relationship. And I want you to know that I love you, but it's going to cause some distance, right? Because if only a part of me is okay with you, that's hard. And it's there's just some programming that runs deep that's really, really painful. And it's hard. It's hard because when you're hurting so much and those people who were safe to you say, I don't even really want to be around you because you make me uncomfortable just knowing you left. It's like, what am I supposed to do about that? I feel a little bit helpless, all I can do is speak truth to it and say, there's something really unhealthy here. There's something really wrong, with the fact that I make you so uncomfortable, regardless of if I say anything or not. It's just an indication of a system that's really, there's some deep-rooted problems, really deep-rooted problems. Yeah.
And so, again, with this theme of the gift of the faith crisis, you've lost friends. I can't imagine how it would be good for your business. I know you both are still successful in your businesses, but I can't imagine that being good for your business. Mm-mm. Maybe it's come at a bit of a cost, at least. Are there some lemonades that have come from those lemons? Is there some lemonade that's come from those lemons in terms of relationships?
Oh, yeah. I mean, where do you begin? Do you want to start or should I start? Yeah, I mean, just in general, I feel like, because I feel so comfortable in my own skin, that I feel like I can say to that person, like, I love you still. Like, I don't know how much energy I can give to that type of a relationship at this point, but like, I can see it for what it's worth, and I can feel so okay with my decision. I don't feel less than, I feel bad for those people who are in that place, who feel like your presence is so scary to me, but it has enhanced my relationships on all fronts. And ability, just facing the difficult relationships has given me tools, right? Given me tools to understand how to take ownership of what relationships I'm going to go into deep and what relationships really, really need to stay on the surface. So, for example, in the beginning, I got really vulnerable with someone in our ward, and she's a mental health professional, and she felt really safe to me at the time. And then I was opening up to her, and then at one point she said, I hope this doesn't offend you, but it looks to me like you're just needing to make a choice between your business and, your religion.
What'd she mean by that?
Well, what she had said is, like, it looks to me on the outside like your business is what's causing this. And it was so unbelievable to me, And it was...
Because if anything, your business, was stressed out by this, right? It wasn't your business.
I mean, it just had nothing... whether Joseph Smith made up something or didn't, or slept with women, or whether the problems in the beginning of church history has anything to do with the business that I'm currently... it's just... it's crazy the things that people sort of make up to make it work for them, but then you realize, like, okay, I can take ownership and say, like, that's probably not a relationship I'm going to really engage in anymore. That's not safe anymore. And, like, I love you. I know where you're at. You're in a scared place, right? And I can see that. And now I'm not going to put my energy there anymore. You know what I mean? And so we're teaching these skills to our kids, You get to choose the people that you interact with, and you get to choose how vulnerable you want to be. And, you learn that you can't put your heart on a platter to just anybody, because it can get smashed, and you're not going to do that. So you have to kind of slowly reassess relationships. And you find that you can get that all of you is perfectly acceptable with certain people. And those are the people that I'm really going to invest my time in. And whether it's blood related or not, it's about taking ownership of what relationships look like and not being a victim in that. Like, I do, for the first time in my life, really feel like we are a victim of a situation that we didn't get to choose. We didn't get to choose. If I got to choose, I would choose that the church is true. We didn't get to choose that. But I do get to choose all the ripple effects and the repercussions. I get to choose how emotionally intelligent and aware I can be in handling those and navigating that and teaching my children the same and having conversations around that. So I feel much more empowered and well and healthy in my relationships now. And part of that is because I feel much more healthy as a human being now, much more whole.
Have you either deepened some existing friendships or made new friends that have surprised you in terms of what they've been able to mean to you in a very short period of time?
I was going to add on to what Leah said, that, stepping from within the tribe, out of the tribe, right? You feel so alone. We felt so alone. And so then from there, stepping into this post-Mormon community, the virtual post-Mormon community, support groups.
Meaning what?
Meaning this summer we went to the Houston Mormon Stories retreat, and that was just...
You kept those friendships up from Houston.
Yeah, we keep in touch with many of those people.
Oh, yeah.
They're some of the dearest people to us. And just,
Shout out to Houston.
Yeah, those people and people in other support groups have just played such an important, like, buckets and buckets of lemonade in our lives.
Thoughtful Transitions on Facebook, Mormon Stories Podcast community on Facebook. Are there others?
Mormon Enlightenment.
Mormon Enlightenment
on Facebook.
Shout out to Sean and Crystal.
Yeah,
and then we created one.
Yeah, so we went to in July, we went to the Houston retreat, and it was just amazing for us. At the time, I remember telling Leah I would fly across the world to get to a Mormon Stories retreat because we didn't feel like we had much of a support community here in our area. So we were just hungering to be with people who understood us, right? And we got there and we felt unconditionally loved. We felt less lonely. We felt like we weren't crazy. And it was just wonderful, a wonderful weekend. And I had been looking for, through the Spectrum website, trying to get in touch with the Spectrum group here in Columbus and hadn't been successful. And I remember talking to you at the retreat and saying, John, I'm not having any success trying to find our local, support community. And he said, okay, or you said, okay, let's do it. We'll start one up. And so we came home and Leah basically took the ball from there and started the Columbus, Ohio Transitions support group, and we now have close to 50 members, I think.
We added a new member this morning.
Yeah, and
so it's registered on mormonspectrum.org, so that...
Did you register?
Oh, you haven't registered it yet?
No.
Okay, for those of you who are looking for a community like that, you can go to mormonspectrum.org/map, and there's this whole map of the whole globe, and there are hundreds and hundreds of local Facebook communities, meetup groups, etc. that you can join if there happens to be an existing group in your area. Check it out. If you want to be like Leah and Cody and create your own group, what you can do is you can go to Mormon Spectrum, you can email those guys, and they'll list your community on the map so that others can find it.
Yeah.
I've helped you guys advertise it a little bit, but I'm really proud of you guys. You're up to 50 members. Yeah.
And Leah's the admin for that.
She's the bishop.
She's the bishop of the ward.
The stake president.
And that's been wonderful. We've hosted a dinner here at our home. We're going to have another one tomorrow since you're in town. But it's really been wonderful to meet like-minded people. People who have been through, are along the same journey or a similar journey to what we've been on. And that's just meant so much to us to have those new relationships in our lives.
And also, I've had some people reach out to me and tell me that they've actually had like little family meetings with your family, that you guys, your family, or some of you have Skyped their families, and you've become sometimes coaches to other families to encourage them, to mentor them. And you're paying forward some of the blessings or gifts that have been afforded to you. Is that true?
Yeah. Early on, we reached out to several of the people from our Houston group and had little Skype sessions with them where they met our kids and became sort of surrogate grandparents for a day with our kids, and that was really fun and allowed them to teach them and sort of have that opportunity. It was really beautiful. And then just in time, Leah mostly has had the opportunity to get connected with people who hear of our faith journey and then come and seek support or a friend or just a listening ear. And I think that's been really great.
Yeah, Cody's participated as well, but I sometimes will reach out to the new people in the support groups because sometimes they have no one to talk to. And they're dealing with people sometimes I'll talk to, people who are just sobbing like, yeah, my mom said she wished I would have died before I left the church. Letters of your family would have been better if they would have drowned in the depths of the sea. And, people, I think Mormons who hear this, they think, oh no, that doesn't happen. And it's like, you have no idea how much that happens. Like every person I talk to almost has like a really tragic story. And often the people who are closest and safest in their life become immediately unsafe when they go through this, right? It's like this flip on a dime. And so, we've had people who've been there for us and for our kids. And we just feel like the best thing that we can do, and that's why Brinley's on this podcast, is to love. And that's may get us in a bit of trouble.
So let's talk briefly about the experience you had with a well-known, high-profile apologist. Just because I think you felt like it was interesting, Cody, or that experience, you talking about it might be able to help other people know what to do or what not to do with people like us. Mm-hmm. So it's not to name drop or to bash anybody. It's just to sort of share experiences so that we all can learn how to handle these things better. Let's talk about that. And then maybe we'll end talking about your bishop and stake president's response to the support group that you created. And that meeting was just a few days ago.
One of them.
And then we'll end with just sort of like hopes for the future. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us about this meeting with an apologist.
So throughout my process and my research, as I was trying to be sure of the pathway that we were going to choose, I was pretty thorough in my Fair Mormon readings and research.
And Fair didn't help you? How was Fair for you as you were trying to find answers?
So I'm a radiologist, and what I do all day is I look at images, and to me, I'm trying to solve puzzles and help other doctors take care of their kids. And there's in radiology and in medicine, oftentimes the simplest and most conclusive answer is the right answer. right?
Occam's razor.
Occam's razor, that's right. The answer that requires the least assumptions is more likely than not to be the correct answer. And as I've read through apologetics, and not always, but many times, there are a lot of assumptions required, a lot of mental gymnastics to arrive at the faith-promoting answer. And in time, that really started to just wear me down. It really did. Because as I tried to step back and look, almost as an outsider, and just kind of evaluate the evidence, right? Try and look at it with a critical mind, right? Not privileging any certain conclusion. To me, the simplest, most conclusive response, or conclusion rather, was that the church wasn't what it claimed to be. And the apologetics helped me to realize that in a way. A close family member was in the ward with Jack Welch, and offered for us to meet with him through Skype, through Zoom.
For those who don't know, Jack was the founder of the FARMS, the Foundation for Ancient Research in Mormonism, which is the predecessor to FAIR and the Maxwell Institute. Yeah. He's the dude that came up with chiasmus, the idea that chiasmus is in the Book of Mormon, which proves it's ancient because there's also chiasmus in Hebrew writings, whatever. Lovely human, I hear.
He is, and he met with us over Skype for a couple hours one evening this past summer. And as you said, lovely person. It was very kind of him to take time out of his day and from his family to meet with us, two people he didn't really know at all. And so we did. We had a meeting. He had asked what we wanted to talk about, and so we focused on the Book of Mormon. That was sort of his area of expertise, and so I figured we'd keep it to that sort of focus. And so we sent him a list of questions, and then sat down and talked for a couple hours. And to be honest, for our approach was one of asking questions and mostly listening. We didn't feel a desire to debate. At that point, our minds were pretty well made up, but we thought, well, if maybe he has answers that I'm not aware of, so I'll ask him my burning questions and see what he offers.
How'd it go? What was useful versus not helpful?
Gosh, I don't. He was very, very kind and very. It's clear that he's a very smart man, very scholarly. Has written several books and pointed us to those in different book chapters. But again, it was a lot of mental gymnastics. It was a lot of, well, it could be this, and it's possibly, So we talked about, for example, DNA evidence for who are the Lamanites, right? And we just don't have. There's still more work to be done on DNA. We don't, we're not as far as we should be. My son, he works in genetics, and he tells me that there's still so much that we've yet to discover in terms of DNA research, and it's too early to draw these conclusions. And we don't have any of Lehi's DNA, and only 10% of the DNA that was present when Columbus arrived was present 50 years later. There's disease wiped out all this DNA, and so it was a lot of the same apologetics answers that I had heard, he had very, very extensive answers and talked extensively about some of his research and how, like, for example, we talked about anachronisms, and he talked about how last year there was a dig near Monterey, Mexico, where they found horses, and early results seemed to say that these horses were only 2,000 years old, and but yet just this weekend I tried to find verification of those results. Like, I can't. Maybe it's out there. I'm just not aware of it, but I haven't been able to verify that indeed that's the case. So we talked about many of those topics about the King James Version appearing in the Book of Mormon, Deutero-Isaiah appearing in the Book of Mormon, and he's written books on Isaiah in the Book of Mormon. So I mean, he could probably talk circles around me about Isaiah and the Book of Mormon, but it in the end it didn't. It was scholarly, but it didn't really answer the questions in the way that I needed them to be answered.
Okay. So in the end, that wasn't super helpful.
I didn't find it super helpful. I was very grateful that he took that time, but I didn't find it super helpful.
And so knowing you kind of wanted to talk about that briefly, do you have some advice or suggestions for people that mean well, that are trying to provide apologetic answers? Do you have do's and don'ts or suggestions at all?
For the apologists?
Yeah.
Oh. I mean, when you start with the conclusion and work your way backwards, it's doomed. You're doomed to, I mean, that's the confirmation bias, right? If you arrive at an emotional conclusion, you're going to find evidence. You're going to filter out the evidence that doesn't support your emotional conclusion, and you're going to certainly compile and focus on all that evidence that possibly, if viewed in the right light, and if enough of the dots possibly connect, and if we can just allow for some assumptions and some gray areas, then maybe we can make it all work. That's kind of how it feels to me, is that we're starting with that conclusion that, okay, the church is true, now how do we work backwards to solve all these problems and issues? And I don't believe that the scientific method is the one and only way to arrive at truth in this world, but I do not believe that starting with that conclusion and working backwards is the correct way for us to test out the truth claims.
All right. Thanks for sharing that. And I've many tens of thousands of people I've interacted with say that apologetics actually confirmed or accelerated their exit from the church, because it's either pseudoscience answers or bad logic or ad hominem attacks or illogical or just loaded with confirmation bias. Mm-hmm. And I think the request from pretty much everyone I know is just stop. You're not helping. You're actually making things worse. Mm-hmm. Just admit that there are problems. Admit it, own it, be upfront and honest about it, and then just say, this is how you've concluded. This is where you stand, but you don't do anyone any benefit by supporting pseudoscience or trying to cherry pick the evidence to support your conclusion. So
yeah, and I mean, we were just talking about a subset of questions within the Book of Mormon, and this was such an extensive, I mean, that's just a little tiny part, and so it was nice of him.
It's nice of him to do it.
Yep.
Okay, so you mentioned doing this lovely thing where you create this Columbus, support community on Facebook for mm-hmm. other people in Columbus who are needing help. You start mm-hmm. this thing. You have an event or two, people start supporting each other. Mm-hmm. What's not to love, right? That seems like an amazing thing. It's been done all over. There are hundreds of these groups. It seemed like at some point the leaders caught wind that this group had been created, and you guys found yourselves in the office of ultimately your stake president. Do you want to talk about what it's been like, how your bishop and stake president have handled this? You were, there are kind of these power couples, these very well-known and well-respected couples that are in every ward and stake throughout the stakes of Zion. And when they start doubting and questioning and fall away, it's a lot different than other groups, a business owner, a physician, served in higher level callings. So can you just give us just sort of a survey of what your interactions with your bishop and stake president has been like, and how it culminated in this recent meeting, and what do you want to share about all that? Again, not to bash, but to help mm-hmm. teach leaders what does and doesn't work in terms of how to work with questioning or post-Mormons.
Yeah, well, first of all, our bishop's been wonderful. Like honestly, he's been great. And I do have a level of, I know it's easy to say like, they're just this or they're that, but I feel bad for them in a way, because it's like they really don't know. Like they really don't have the information, and they're really kind of thrown into this situation that's really unfair for them. And our bishop's been so great, because we'll send him podcasts, like the podcast of 5 Reasons People Are Leaving the Church, or the Bill Reel one he did, To Our Loved Ones. And I'm like, okay, read these and then we'll meet. And we've met several times, and he's listened to us, and we've been very honest.
Did he know about the essays before you met with him the first time? Did he know about the issues? Did he even have a basic training? as far as you're aware?
The essays?
I don't want.
Or did it appear as though?
That's a great question. I don't think so. I don't recall exactly.
He didn't seem equipped to really deal with this.
Right.
We're not training our bishops and stake presidents.
No.
The churches, because they don't want the virus to spread to their top leadership. So, so the church puts out the essays. The church puts out the essays to be able to say legally, or, we're not hiding this. Look, we put out these essays, but they don't advertise the essays. They don't train the leaders about what's in the essays. And most members and bishops and stake presidents not only have never read the essays, they don't even know that they exist in 2019.
And I will say that at our second meeting, the first meeting I can't recall whether or not, but at the second meeting he did say that he was grateful to be aware of them and that he'd read them, that he thinks it's important and they're going to use them to teach their own kids. So he had become aware of them. Whether that was through us or not, I don't want to say for sure, but my sense was that at least initially he wasn't as familiar with them. So. But yeah, he's been really lovely in the sense that he's come into our home in a respectful way. He's listened, asked questions. He's always respected our, he'll ask, do you want to be home taught? Do you want to be a home teacher? We're now doing ministering. Do you want to be a minister? No, I'd rather not. Okay, that's perfectly fine. So he's always been very respectful to us. But about 2 weeks ago, he came over. He had and Leah had communicated by text about our group, and he wanted to learn more about the group, the support group. So he came over, and we had a meeting for an hour or so, and he asked questions about the group, and he let us know that the stake presidency was aware, and they were concerned about our group, and he also let us know that some people in the ward were also aware, and that they were feeling threatened. And he knew from our letter that we had explicitly stated that we wanted to be safe, that we didn't want to be a threat to anybody, but that people were feeling threatened by us. I guess that they feel like we're trying to pull people away from the church. So we had a long discussion with him where we reassured him that that's not our desire to pull people away from the church, that we can't control, what the ward members are going to feel. It's unfortunate. We don't want them to feel threatened. But what we were trying to do was love people, and that the people that are in our support group are people who need love and support, and that they're having a hard time finding that they've stepped out of that tribe and community for many of them, not all, but for many of them, and they're feeling alone. And we can understand them in a way that those in the tribe can't, and we need love and support from them, and they need love and support from us. So that's the whole goal. And then Saturday night, we were again running errands, grocery shopping. We got a phone call that stake president wanted to meet with us the next day. That was Sunday. So we went in and we...
Really quick, what's that like, and I've experienced this, to feel like people are monitoring you and telling on you and reporting you to leadership, and then what's it like to feel like these leaders are like, no, I got to call you back in because we got to have a talk about this. Now that you're on, just so that if any of them are ever watching, just so that they can know what it's like from your point of view, how does it feel to be monitored, and called in for questioning? What's that like?
Well, I've really invited it. I have to be honest, because I feel like if we just step away and we just vanish, right, which is the most comfortable thing to do, then how are we helping? How are we helping? How are we helping the people that come next? How are we helping them if their child learns this information? How are we helping the church move forward into more honesty, into more safeness, into a place where people aren't feeling so cast aside and othered and labeled? And I mean, all these bad things are happening. And if we just step aside and we don't share our voices, then we're not helping, we're not living our core values of love and kindness for those other people who are struggling. And so I've really always wanted to be very open. Maybe sometimes Cody hasn't even wanted that maybe as much at times, like, why do you want to have this conversation again or whatever? But it's important for me to be able to sit and say, this isn't, we find ourselves in a situation that is so painful and difficult, but it's not our fault. It is not our fault. We did not know the true narrative. It is not your fault that this is uncomfortable to you. But it is important for us to sit here and have this conversation because you know what, Bishop? This is going to keep happening. It's going to keep happening because the information is out there and the church can't hide it forever. And you need to understand as a minister, as someone overseeing a congregation where people are going to keep finding these things out and people are going to feel so lonely and so hurt. You need to know why and how and what that looks like. And so we're very honest with him. We talk about the feelings. We talk about talking to our family. We talk about how there isn't a place for us in the church anymore. When you can't answer the temple recommend questions, when you can't sit comfortably in a lesson without feeling like I can't be honest here and say ooh, that's not right. These are conversations. We've had long conversations with him. And so I'm very open, we have a support group. I think it's a great thing. The church, what does the church offer people who are struggling? Repent and return. You're wrong.
Or shunning.
Or you make me uncomfortable. Those are the options. And neither of those work for people who are struggling. So that night when he came, I said, hey, trust me, I would love for the church to put something in place. Maybe that's the conversation that needs to happen. Not the Youngs are a threat, the Youngs are apostate, the Youngs are pulling people away, because actually that's not what we're doing. And we said, what do you think you can do to help these people?
I bet they love that.
What does this tell you that's unhealthy about the culture? Because I think it's a valuable conversation that needs to be had, even if it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to sit there and say that. I don't want to make him feel bad. And it's hard, but it has to happen. People have to start talking, and I said, we are trying to just love and validate and encourage and create community for these people who feel cast aside. And then the conversation and then that evolved.
In what way?
Well, why don't you take your name off the record of the church?
So they wanted to, if you're not going to be all in, they kind of want you to go away.
Well, so in a sense, to go back to your question, it feels a little bit silly, right? That we as grown adults who are not doing anything pernicious or illegal, we're just organizing a support group. Hey, let's get together and have a dinner and talk. That's somehow viewed as threatening, right? That's silly.
And it kind of follows the Christ parable of leaving the 99 to go after the one, right? Yeah. You are in some ways following a very Mormon and Christian impulse.
Yes.
Right.
We're doing what we were taught to do.
Right. But at the same time, on some level, I sort of get it, right? Because there is this persecution complex that's what I call it, within the church, right? I think it's been there since the pioneer days. It's us against the world. People are trying to come get us. It's the whole God versus Satan. And if people are persecuting you, that means you're on God's side. Because Satan is the one who's, prompting them to persecute you. And so I can understand, unfortunately, why the stake president might arrive at the conclusion that the Youngs are a threat, that they're trying to somehow harm the church. And that's why when we sat down with him, we said, listen, that's not our intent. Our intent is just to love. And like Leah said, we and they are people for whom the church doesn't really offer a viable option, right? There is no safe space for these people to discuss their beliefs, their questions, their concerns. You and I both know it. There is no safe space. It's not your fault, President, because you can't. What can you offer? The church doesn't. First of all, the church doesn't come clean about the truth of the history. So these people are always going to be viewed as outsiders and wrong. And then there's no avenue, there's no place, there's no reformed ward where they can belong and just, enjoy all that they love about Mormonism and be able to leave the stuff they don't enjoy. And so if the church doesn't have a viable option, why can't we, who have a certain degree of understanding and a level of compassion that frankly nobody in the church can have for them, why can't we offer just a space for people to feel loved so they're not alone? right? They've been abandoned. They've been divorced. They've lost their jobs. Why can't we just say, hey, come over here. We'll be your friend. You're not alone. We love you. You're loved. And how is that not Christ-like? And President, I hope that at some point you can refer people to our group, right? Because you may get to the point where you realize, I'm running out of options to help these people. I don't have a good option to help these people. But I said, it would be Christ-like for you to refer them to a group who at least can offer love and understanding and support.
Yeah. No, it makes perfect sense. Alan Mount's with us. He's one of the co-hosts of Marriage on a Tightrope. He says he's meeting with the stake president tomorrow night about this very thing. And this really is a churchwide epidemic.
Yes.
The church is losing people by the tens of thousands every year, people like us.
Yes.
Marlon Jensen said it's some of the best and brightest. It's former bishops, Relief Society presidents, former stake presidents. Just a couple of days ago, I had a bishop email me, John, help me, I'm bishop. My wife doesn't know I don't believe anymore. My stake president doesn't know. How do I get out of this without destroying my family, without destroying the ward, without destroying my life? Like this is an epidemic.
Well, and I just so honor. I mean, I feel like in just the smallest way, we've been so helped by all the resources that you've created and that other brave people have created. And, we just hope, and that's why we're on this is, and I get messages actually even from people like, I don't know what to do. My husband's believing or my wife's believing and I'm afraid I'm going to get divorced. And it's such a scary thing. And the church just has there's no support there. And so I would just encourage anyone listening to this in remembering that it's not your fault that you didn't know the true story, right? In that space, take courage and have the conversation, have the difficult conversation. You don't need to go into all the issues and threaten. I think that it's not valuable necessarily to go into all the issues with fully believing members, any of them. But sit with your bishop, sit with your home teacher, sit with your stake president, and be real and say, this is a really difficult, painful thing. Be honest, because if you just walk away and say nothing, which I get it, but are you softening the landing for all of those coming after you? Even if it's a little bit of good, your conversation could mean something big for someone,
If you have a safe leader, not every leader is amenable to that conversation.
Correct. If you're so fortunate to have a leader who will sit and listen.
Yeah. Let's turn it around. What advice would you give bishops and stake presidents who are, it's like, oh my gosh, the Youngs are leaving. They're super well respected. I don't want this virus to spread and infect all the other ward and stake members. I got to cut them off, or I got to shun them, or I've got to control it in some way. Let me call them in. Let's say they're listening. What advice do you have for bishops and stake presidents that will not hurt them or the church? That's the trick. You can say, learn all the stuff and be open and be a good listener, but what if that infects them? What if that makes them stop believing? What if that makes the virus spread? So what advice can you give them that won't harm them or the church?
Well, the thing about the people who come into our group is they've already done the research. They've already done the study. And so I think that for a bishop to be helpful, they don't need to even really give resources for learning. I think that if they were to just care more about loving than about the name of the church, it could go a long way. If your priority can be the person and seeking to love them and hear them and comfort them, I think that's what Christ taught. I know it is. And that kind of goes away because, there's all this worry about protecting this organization, right? It's like, that's what's getting in the way, right? When we have this conversation with the stake president and we turn in, we ask for people to comment about how have these groups helped you, right? And what is getting in the way of that connection, that validation, that love? Why are we the ones doing that? Well, a lot of reasons, but I think one of them is because there's such a fear and threat to the name of the church. But what if the priority was love? It gets really simple, right? Like, you can still be there and love someone who's not there, can't you? Like, can't we do that? Because I can be over here and love someone who's all in. So can you not be, because it's so hard, because somehow the people in the church, it's so valid for them to preach to us and say, have you read your scriptures? Have you done all this? And here on the outside, like, we can't say, have you read this? Have you done, it can't be equal in that way. But if we just focus on love and respect and seeking for understanding, then I think it gets a lot more simple. If we can let the fear of the name of the church and protecting the organization go away, then we're connecting in a meaningful way.
I love it. Brinley, you've been quiet. Anything you want to say about just these little micro things we've been talking about?
No, I think what they all said was great.
Okay.
Yeah, they've had some good conversations, and I've always admired how they do it with grace and kindness. And I feel like sometimes if I were in that situation, I'd get all upset and mad and try and make them understand, but they've always handled it very kindly, and I think that's in part why people are so receptive.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, well, and by the way, I have to give a shout out. One of my favorite interviewees, Emily Davis Harris. Hi, Emily. Emily and Kyle, we came to their home in Houston during a thunderstorm and interviewed them. It's one of the great transition stories. She writes, agreed, Leah, I found it ironic that I couldn't talk to Mormons about Mormonism when I transitioned out of Mormonism. If I can't talk to them, then who? The church, its leaders and members can do better here. I hope they learn from these stories. Casey, who's been following us all day.
Oh,
hey, Casey.
Hi, Casey. Melanie.
Casey writes, leaders just need to listen. That's not bad advice. Very simple advice from Casey. So lots of good feedback. Casey also writes, the biggest communication problem, particularly with leaders, is we do not listen to understand. We listen to reply. So that's good advice.
Yes.
Don't just hear, but actually listen to understand and to empathize with, not to lecture or to be thinking about what your response or argument's going to be. Just marinate in their own perspective and be empathetic. You don't have to abandon your own beliefs and position to listen empathetically and to just say, oh, I can kind of see from your perspective why this is so hard. I'm so sorry. I can't agree with everything, but how do I help you? How do we be a better support to you in the community? How do we love you better? That's all things that can be done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So we are, can you believe it? We're kind of winding up this 7-hour epic interview with Leah, Cody, and Brinley Young. We've still got a couple hundred people that have joined us throughout this whole thing. We've had 10,000 people probably throughout the day who have tuned in. We've loved the comments and questions. We're not done yet. What we want to do is we want to close with each of you sharing some parting words of encouragement or support or advice or perspective with those who are listening. And we want to do it in the reverse patriarchal order. So we're going to give Cody the first word, and then we're going to give Leah the second word, and we're going to give Brinley the final word.
Reverse. Wouldn't it be Brinley, me, him?
No.
I don't know. I'm just saying, let's not give men the last word, right?
Oh, I see.
Let's give the child...
Yeah.
Maybe the wisest of them all. Let's give the child
the last word.
the last word.
I see what you're saying.
And
yes.
let's is that all right?
Yeah, that's a
Fabulous.
great idea. I love it.
I mean, is there anything else we haven't covered that you guys wanted to cover, or?
Well,
I don't think so.
Let's release our poor listeners.
Well, incorporate if there are any final stories or points you wanted to include. Feel free to throw them in. You can take as much time as you want. We're going to do 3 closing statements, and we want to make sure you're going to spend this time. You may as well cover the things you want to cover.
Yeah.
So you guys be thinking about what you're going to say. We'll start with you, Cody. What would you like to say to kind of...
Yeah, wow. Well, thank you, John, for having us on Mormon Stories, and to everybody who listened. It's been the most difficult year, and as you've seen today, some of those emotions are still very raw and at the surface. But it's been, in so many ways, such a beautiful experience for me individually, for me as a husband. I've learned to love and appreciate and be a companion to my wife in ways that I never had opportunity to do. I've learned to accept her and for just who she is, not because of who I want her to be or who I hope for her to be, but because of who she is. And that's just been lovely for me. And as a father, as I sit and I listen to Brinley talk about where she's at, I honor that and I celebrate that. It's a journey, right? It's a process. And at the age of 14, of course, she's got a million questions, right? And I don't have the answer to a lot of them, and that's okay. And we can journey together, and I don't have to force her into a box. I don't have to feel threatened if she can't align herself with a certain truth right now. And we don't have to be aligned on everything, right? And that's, to me, just so wonderful as a father, that we can, as a family, love each other, accept each other. And it's just been such a wonderful journey. And that I never could have, a year ago, I just couldn't have imagined. I couldn't have dreamed it, you know what I mean? When you told us that it could be the greatest gift to our family.
There was some skepticism.
Yeah, man, that was heresy, right? I mean, I just couldn't see it. But in the end, that which makes us
doesn't kill us, makes us stronger, and it didn't kill us, and it's made us stronger and happier. And I'm just, it's an out of body experience to sit here and say this, but I am so thankful, really, just so thankful that we've gone through this process and this transition that I just never saw coming. So you're bearing testimony of your faith crisis, basically. Yeah, with every fiber of my being.
With every fiber. I know this to be true.
But that's my reality. It's my truth. It's my experience, and it's my lived reality. I love it. All right.
Yeah.
Leah.
Yeah. It is amazing to step out of believing that you're right and to be able to study humanity, right? And see humanity and accept what's actually happened, things like evolution, but also to be able to look at religion as it's not necessarily about it being right or wrong anymore, in my eyes, because there's so many religions based on, where you're born. Maybe I would have been Buddhist or a different religion had I been born somewhere else. And there's some beautiful things about these narratives that are created to answer the existential questions which humanity wants answers to, and to rise up and look at that in a different way. It has connected me so deeply with just even authors or people or the world in a new way. And I don't think spirituality and religion are the same thing. I feel, because I've lost my religion, and I feel so much more deeply spiritual than I ever felt before. I feel so much love, but there's no asterisks on that love. I see someone with a disability, or I see someone who's homeless, or I see, a Sikh, or I see whoever, and I just feel this love for people, and there's no, but they don't have the truth, And I think my greatest definition of God is that love that I feel inside when I'm hearing someone's story that's difficult, or when I'm seeing someone who's going through pain. I think that we all have that in us. And as we've sort of broken out of all of this box of what does it look like to be holy and righteous and getting to heaven, I feel like that worthiness is in all of us, right? And we put all these labels on it and we put this box around it. And I think that can actually suffocate our ability to see others and love others. And I want to teach my children to be able to sit in a chair with someone completely different from them and look at them and be brought to tears because they just love that person, because they're human and they're a part of this experience. And all of these things are possible now. I feel like I'm more connected to my spouse. I'm more connected to my children. I feel like the people that I trust most are the ones who say, I hope for this, or this makes a lot of sense, or it makes me happy to serve, but not that there's one way and this is the one way. That doesn't work for me anymore, and I'm not concerned about that anymore. I'm concerned about living the best that I can according to my core values, which generally haven't changed at all. They're just not rooted in dogma or in a certain ideology. And I want to continue to be just as intentional as I was, or more intentional, feeling like we can parent in a new way and we can live in a new way that feels more wholehearted and that feels more grounded and that feels more safe and that feels more healthy. And I would just say, if you're really suffering and if you're where we were, 6-8 months ago, it really does get better. Like Paul would say, and something that Paul would say to me a lot too is like, sometimes you have to remember that Mormonism is a fringe religion. Like, I Googled it the other day, there's more Jehovah's Witnesses than Mormons. And sometimes when you're like in the thick of it and it's like, this is everything. It's like
the world.
It's the whole universe. And then I kept remembering that, like, so many people have never even heard of us, You kind of have to do some of those soothing reminders to remember, like, everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. And that's just what I would end on, is that no matter where you're at, there's something so beautiful and freeing about saying, if I can live honestly and with integrity on my own, it can be hurtful when the world around you crashes down or when people label you, but it's also completely freeing in a beautiful way. And that's kind of what we've stepped into as individuals and as a family. So it really has been a gift. It's been a gift.
I love it. Really quickly, a shout out to Lisa Hacking.
Oh, hi, Lisa.
Lisa is half of the Lisa Paul Hacking duo. Mm-hmm. Years ago, they did one Ordinary Families Extraordinary Mormon Journey. They did their faith transition story with their son. And it was an epic, amazing story. It's definitely one of the top 25, 30 Mormon Stories episodes of all time. So shout out to Lisa and Paul. We love you guys.
We love
Kyle.
you.
I said Kyle. Lisa, Paul, and Kyle. Lisa writes, one of the greatest gifts. And by the way, Lisa and Paul came to the Houston retreat.
We're in contact with them. They've taught our children lessons about core values.
I'd love them to be grandparents to my children.
Yeah.
Not that they're much older than me and Margie, but Lisa writes, one of the greatest gifts of this transition is meeting wonderful people like you and getting to call you friends. We love you all and are so proud of how you have shared your stories with love, empathy, and kindness. What a great family to model this process by. Great job. Wow. Thank you, Lisa and Paul and Kyle. And same to you. We all want to be like the Hackies.
Yeah, we do.
A little bit more.
We love them so much. We love them.
Yeah, and I'll just do a shout out to Waka. Lisa is one of the leaders of COCA, which is couples of a certain age, which is a shoot off of Waka, which is women of a certain age, which is this amazing support group for 40 plus post-Mormons all across the Wasatch Front. But it's not just that. There are Waka branches all over the United States. We hope that Waka continues to grow. Again, an amazing support group for women 40 and older. And They now have a support group for women in their 30s and women in their 20s. And they have couples of a certain age, which are couples that get together along the Wasatch Front and do karaoke and book clubs and dinner groups and wine tastings if you're into that, and all sorts of really fun things. So check out Waka and Coca and Mocha, Men of a Certain Age, because there's a lot of community out there for you if you're needing it. And you can find all that at mormonspectrum.org/map, or you can check out the Waka episode on Mormon Stories Podcast with Kim Sandberg Turner, and you can learn all about Waka and how it can meet your needs. Anyway, shout out to Lisa.
Yeah.
Thank you for the beautiful comments, Leah. And now let's end with the power and the wisdom of Brinley, who broke the Mormon Stories record and one of the youngest guests ever to appear on Mormon Stories Podcast. Brinley, it's been so delightful to have you.
Thank you. I've loved being here, and it's amazing to be the first teenager. I feel like I'm in some ex-Mormon Guinness World Records book or something. First teenager ever, you know. But something I would say is that, yeah, it's a gift to go through what we've been through. And actually, the way that I found out, I had no idea really what I wanted to be when I grew up. And because of this faith crisis, I figured out I wanted to be a therapist or a counselor or something like that, because I like to help people and help them process through their thoughts. And I hope that something I've said has hopefully helped a teenager, because I know when I was going through it, it would have been nice. I know I had a few people, but just a teenager to kind of speak for me and have things resonate with me. So, yeah, I don't know what to say. There's so much to say, but we've really grown closer as a family. I've overcome social struggles, emotional struggles, been closer with my parents, and with my grandpa, I've been able to let go of some of the judgment, and I call on him and check up on him, and I've grown so much closer to him, because not directly because of the faith crisis, but I think because I've learned important non-judgment skills, you know, so I'm able to just look at him with love and understanding, and be able to love him for him. And it's been a blessing for me to be able to grow closer to him and to grow closer to my siblings who are trying to figure this out. And it was different processing for every one of us. We each processed it at a different level. I think Reese, who was 5, you know, you should occasionally mention it, but we all kind of did it at our own level. But it's been nice to have some conversations with Avery, who is 12 now, and just go closer to my family and my siblings, and have friends that I know will be there for me. I joined cross country because I was missing out on some of the friends and the community of the church, and they were all wonderful people, and I love them all, and they're really, really great kids. But yeah, I would say there's so much more blessings and beautiful things that will come out of a faith crisis than the initial hard, rocky months or years. However, it takes different times for everyone, but getting through that's really hard. But then once you get out of it, it's like the best thing ever.
Best thing ever, she says.
Yeah, I got to tell you this really cute story real quick. So one day we were, now on Sundays we do things together as a family. We have journal writing sessions, and we just learn in different ways, and we go on bike rides to breakfast. And we were coming back home from a bike ride once, and Reese goes, "Mom, it sure doesn't seem like we go to church anymore." And I go,
she noticed.
I said, "Yeah, Reese, how does that make you feel?" And she goes, "Well, I guess we just have more important things to do now, like spending time with our family." So that's Reese. We have more important things to do now, like spending time with our family.
Sounds like we should have ended today with Reese, not with.
Oh, gosh, it would have been that. She would have talked the whole 7 hours
about things completely unrelated.
All right. Well, you guys are so incredibly lovely. I got to give a shout out to Margot Katz.
Oh, Margot.
Nationally published author, Margot Katz.
Oh, I didn't know
CATTS. She writes, and she attended the Houston retreat as well.
Yeah, we love Margot.
I'm a lucky girl to call you guys my friends. Aww. This has been important. Guys, go get you some waffles. You killed it. Why waffles?
I don't know.
Well, thank you for the suggestion. I like waffles.
We love you, Margot.
No, but, a shout out to, we do these workshops and retreats for a couple reasons. One is to support people, to give them tools and tips and tricks and encouragement and support, but also to give them community and to give them mentors. And we've been doing them all over the country. They've been very successful, and we want to keep doing them. So if you want to attend a workshop or retreat, you can email us at mormonfaithcrisis@gmail.com. We'll be publishing our calendar of workshops and retreats for the coming months ahead. We've got an intensive couples retreat that me, Natasha, and Margie are doing in February. You're welcome to join. There are a few slots left, as I understand it. But we're going to try and do these all over Colorado, California, Chicago, Idaho, Arizona, Texas. So many places have reached out and said they want to hold these events. And all we got to do is find people that are willing to partner with us to help us plan it and organize it and help us reach out to let people know about it. And as long as we can get 30 or 40 people at an event, that makes it affordable. Oh, we want to come to Europe. So we've got a venue lined up in Switzerland. We've got some hosts that are ready. We're going to help out the European post-Mormon saints as well. We want to hold these workshops and retreats everywhere. So check us out at mormonfaithcrisis@gmail.com or mormonfaithcrisis.com/events. Email us, reach out, come, support us, spread the word, because you do not have to be alone. Margie, Natasha, and I have limited availability as coaches for those who need the support. We're not doing that because we need extra, clients. We are here to support people. We have plenty to do without any more people reaching out, but we believe in this and we care about people. So we make ourselves available. Find a community, join Thoughtful Transitions at Facebook, join the Mormon Stories Podcast community, join A Thoughtful Faith, join any of the local groups that exist in your area through mormonspectrum.org/map. There are just so many ways. Find friends, find community, speak out, build community, create a community if there's one locally. I just had a listener say, I wish there was something in Australia. My understanding there is support groups in Australia. Simon Southerton's a part of that. And if you don't have a group in your local area, create one like the Youngs did, and then we'll help you market it, because you shouldn't be alone. You shouldn't need to suffer and struggle through this. There is support. There is joy on the other end. And we're going to help make that happen. We are working on a book. Margie, Natasha, and I are working on a book called The Gift of the Faith Crisis. We're doing a weekly podcast, Margie, Natasha, and I, that we're going to try and share more practical tips and tools. So just resources coming out of your ears. And you don't need to come to me, Margie, and Natasha, for coaching or therapy. There are other good coaches and therapists out there. You can go to the Mormon Mental Health Association. You can find good therapists and coaches there. There are a billion resources for you if you just want to find them. So don't lose hope. Don't get discouraged. Find the support you need. You're amazing, and you're amazing.
Thank you.
Did you want to say something, Cody?
No, I just want to affirm what you said about the retreats. I mean, for us, it was pivotal, just so important, and I just would highly recommend it to anybody who can get to one of any sort.
And the coaching. I mean, the coaching. We didn't know exactly how best to walk through this. We tried to be intentional, but, I know you guys are really busy, but Margie and her weekly coaching sessions with Brinley were huge in giving Brinley tools to navigate really difficult, sort of maybe losing some friendships and rebuilding a community. And so the workshops and I would just say to that person in Australia, it's been wonderful for us to be able to sort of pay it forward and create the community that we have here in Columbus, Ohio, come what may. We are dedicated to that community and to doing the right thing. And I think that is to lift where you stand. And we lifted where we stood in the church for most of our lives, and now we're trying to just do the exact same thing. We're just not doing it maybe in the same spot.
Alex from Australia is telling us to bring a retreat or workshop to Australia. We almost did that. We just didn't get enough people. So if you guys can help us line up enough people to cover, the airfare, which is substantial, and the lodging, and to make it affordable for us to be able to do that, we would love to come to Australia, New Zealand. I mean, I wouldn't say I love it because that plane ride is brutal, but I've been to Australia. It's gorgeous and the people are amazing. I've actually never been to New Zealand. I'd love to visit Gina and Nathan and all the amazing Kiwi post-Mormons out there. But anyway, let's get some events going. Thank you for those kind words.
Yeah.
And thank you to the Youngs for your beautiful story and your open hearts and your willingness to share. You guys are inspirational to me. I want my family to hang around your family. You make me want to be a better person.
Well, we love the Delins, so we'll make it happen.
All right. So thanks to everyone who's joined us today all day long. Thanks for your comments, for your questions. There are over 1,000 comments that have been made today. A lot of great stuff that's been missed, a lot of links. So feel free to go to the Facebook page, Mormon Stories Podcast, and check out the conversation that was there. Please, there are lots of things you can do to support us. You can like our Facebook page. You can share our content. You can give us a positive review on Facebook. You can give us a positive review on iTunes on the Mormon Stories Podcast there. That helps. You can donate to Mormon Stories Podcast. All this happens because of generous donors. People give $10 a month, $50 a month, $100 a month, whatever they can afford. And those monthly donations, if you subscribe, allows us to pay for Cody Layton, who does our audio video editing. Cody, you're amazing. Thank you so much for all you do to support and make Mormon Stories possible. They support me so that I can, airfare to come here, all the equipment that we use, this multi-camera shot with good audio equipment and mixers, all that comes from your support. So thank you to those who support us. If you don't support us, please consider supporting us now and in the future. Please spread the word. Know that we're grateful, and know that we'll have lots of cool episodes. Tomorrow, as if this isn't enough, tomorrow I will be interviewing Dan Vogel, the famous, noted Mormon historian who has written a biography on Joseph Smith, who's published several books on Mormon history. We're going to do 6 or 7 hours of Dan Vogel if I can get enough sleep tonight to recharge my batteries. We're so excited about that. We're going to talk about folk magic and Mormonism. We're going to talk about the Book of Mormon and how it was created. According to Dan, we're going to talk about Book of Abraham, I'm sure. Polygamy, lots of theories about Joseph Smith and Mormonism. I do want to give a shout out to this new project that we have called the Mormon Truth Claims Project. If you go to mormonstories.org/truth-claims, and you'll see it there on the menu, a generous researcher and donor has donated a bunch of really cool historical content to the blog itself. So you can go and read about Book of Abraham, go read about blacks in the priesthood, go and read about the Book of Mormon, about polygamy, about Joseph Smith. It's all there, and we're going to be refining and improving this content. We've just hired an editor part-time to help us refine that. And we have a new billboard campaign that we've kicked off. In just a few days across I-15, there's going to be a billboard that says, "Was Joseph Smith a treasure digger?" ? mormonstories.org/treasure, and then it's going to have the Mormon Stories podcast logo there. And we're going to drive people to our truth claims content. And then we're going to be doing, over the next year, in-depth podcast episodes on, the first vision, on the Book of Abraham, on the Book of Mormon, on polygamy, on all the issues that are most important. We're going to do another deep dive into the truth claims issues so that there's web content and podcast content that goes deep into the issues that you guys care about. So thanks to everyone who supported the billboard campaign so far. My web guy tells me that we increased new users to Mormon Stories Podcast 18% year over year compared to last year. That's a really healthy number of new users, thanks to those who donated to the billboard. So thank you, and thank you to our generous anonymous donor who's supporting our billboard campaign for the next few months. And we hope that those of you who still want to see this billboard campaign continue we'll find a way for you to donate to keep that billboard alive, because it costs $5,800 a month to run a billboard along I-15 in the Salt Lake corridor. Plus, if we reprint the billboard each month for a new message to keep it interesting, that's like another $500 or $800 just to put up a new billboard screen. So it costs money, but we know it's reaching new people. And again, that's one of the main motivations of what we're doing, is we want to reach more people, because there's a lot of people who don't have the support they need, who don't know that we're out here, who don't know the truth about the church, and who don't know what options they have. And they're in that bubble, they're in that box. And if they learn all this stuff and they decide to stay, awesome. We support that 100%. But if they're living a life that where they don't fully know what they're joining, what they're a member of, what they're promoting, and they don't have all the evidence, they can't have free agency. They can't make informed decisions. So all we want is just everyone to fully know the church's history, its truth claims, what it is, how it helps people, how it hurts people, and then they can make informed decisions in or out of the church. We don't care. We just want to support them. So thanks to everyone who supports us. Keep supporting us, and we'll keep doing great things with your support for as long as we can. So you guys take care. See you soon on another episode of Mormon Stories Podcast. And again, Youngs, we love you guys so much, and we wish your family all the best.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. Take care, everybody. We'll see you soon.